From an unwelcome blast from my past to my best friend fearing for her safety, to the startling realization the woman I was with wasn't who I thought. Join me in recounting 3 blood-curdling true stories of deeply unsettling high school reunion encounters with dangerously unhinged exes and deceitful imposters lurking in plain sight. The Reunion Crasher. It was the night of my 10-year high school reunion. I hadn't planned on attending, but my friends convinced me to go, insisting it would be fun to catch up with old classmates. The event was being held at a nice venue in town, set up by some students from our graduating year. I felt awkward about making small talk with people I hadn't seen in 10 years, but ultimately decided to attend with my good friends Kayla, Marissa, and Sophia. We arrived fashionably late, drinks in hand, ready to mingle. Immediately I spotted familiar faces from my teenage years, older-looking versions of the popular kids, athletes, class clowns. There must have been 100 people, more than I expected. My friends eased my nerves about approaching long-lost peers. I was content staying within my friend bubble, but eventually we split off to separately catch up with old friends. I found myself alone at our table, feeling increasingly out of place. As I awkwardly picked at my food, I noticed an unfamiliar guy across the room stealing glances. Our eyes met briefly before I looked away. Moments later, he appeared at my table, introducing himself as Connor. Caught off guard, I politely responded as he laid on the charm. He claimed to have transferred senior year, explaining why I didn't recognize him. We seemed to hit it off until he abruptly left to rejoin his friends, after getting my number. My unease returned as my friends had all but disappeared for the night. Tipsy, I wanted nothing more than to go home. Conveniently, I received a text from Connor asking if I needed a ride. I met Connor outside and got into his car after saying lackluster goodbyes. He cracked open the waters for both of us. I thanked him and sipped. Suddenly, my phone exploded with concerned texts and calls from Kayla and the girls, telling me to check the reunion's Facebook page. With alarm, I read a post warning female attendee of a creep, not from our class, lurking around the party. I felt sick realizing I had just left with that man. When I stopped at a light, I sprang from the car and frantically called my friends to retrieve me. In my panic, I hadn't realized how foggy my mind had gotten. After drinking that water, it was likely drugged with ill intent. Safely inside my apartment the next day, I received bone-chilling news from my neighbor that a man had come by the previous night, circled my home looking for me. Rattled, I moved shortly after. I'm thankful my friends tried to warn me against that sinister reunion crasher in time. These events remind us all too well. We never truly know someone, even those who seem harmless. The late-night stalker. That harrowing reunion experience reminded me of another friend's chilling encounter at her 5-year high school reunion. My best friend Julia had a history with a rather unhinged classmate named Tyler. Back in high school, she had briefly hooked up with Tyler until his aggressive obsession emerged. When she rejected his further advances, he didn't take it well at all. Tyler began sending Julia threatening messages, even showing up at her home late one night. Her father eventually chased him off their property. They never pressed charges, though, as his harassment tapered off. While Julia moved on with her life in the years since, the lingering memory of Tyler's unstable behavior stuck with her. When Julia received word that her 5-year reunion was being hosted nearby, she invited me as her +1 for moral support. We were excited to reunite with many kind-hearted classmates from our teenage years. However, Julia couldn't shake the nervous thought of potentially seeing Tyler there too. We were a few hours into an otherwise lovely evening of nostalgia and laughter with old friends when Julia felt a tap on her shoulder. She turned around and felt her stomach drop. It was Tyler. A wave of unease washed over us as he asked her if they could talk. Julia made it clear there was nothing to discuss and promptly walked away. As the night went on, Julia actively avoided him. At one point, though, Tyler aggressively grabbed her shoulder to stop her. Julia told him off and pushed him away. His reputation had already soured in our graduating class, given his disturbing behavior towards women. Julia reported the incident to both male and female friends to feel safe. For the remainder of the reunion, she stayed far away from Tyler, eventually leaving the venue early with me and several other girls. Exhausted from the emotional encounter, Julia crashed at my apartment that night. The next morning, as she left my place, an unfamiliar car slowly passed by. Julia felt an instant bad feeling about it. The following day, she investigated Tyler's social media activity. Suspecting the drive-by vehicle was his, sure enough, Tyler then messaged her from a fake Instagram account, trying to manipulate her into seeing him yet again. Having her worst lingering fears of his obsession confirmed, she promptly blocked him. However, that very night, Julia was jarred awake by furious pounding at her front door. Terror mounting by the second, she hid silently in her room, while the aggressive and clearly unwelcome visitor demanded to be let inside, ringing her doorbell repeatedly too. The persistent banging assaulted her door for an agonizing amount of time as Julia tried to make herself invisible, horrified it was Tyler. The unwavering attempts to break in eventually ceased, but the doorbell then began ringing incessantly in a last-ditch effort to draw her out. Julia was home alone and petrified, but refused to open the door. The traumatic incident dredged up emotions from Tyler's previous late-night harassment years prior. His volatility clearly raged on despite time passed. Having directly experienced Tyler's capacity for unhinged behavior, Julia turned to authorities for help once the harrowing home invasion ended. Her friend's detective father paid Tyler a stern visit and warned him on record to forever cease all contact with Julia, or he would press charges for stalking and harassment. Thankfully, knowing he was now on law enforcement's radar compelled Tyler to finally leave Julia alone for good. She remained reluctant and on edge for some time, though, prepared to swiftly file a restraining order if needed. Julia's chilling late-night showdown serves as a sobering reminder that women must fiercely protect themselves and each other against those who mean them harm. Though sentimental images of picture-perfect reunions may dance through our heads, we must remain vigilant of ghosts of troubles past. Julia emerged stronger, but struggles to this day to sleep soundly when alone, often jolted awake imagining Tyler's twisted face leering outside her windows once more. The fake date. Both my and Julia's unsettling brushes with danger at our school reunions were frightening. However, another friend of mine, Ellen, endured an even more bizarre and, quite frankly, terrifying reunion experience recently. Ellen had met a woman named Phoebe on a dating app, and after a few weeks of seeing each other, Phoebe asked her to attend a high school reunion party as her +1. Wanting to make her date feel comfortable, Ellen agreed. When they arrived at the surprisingly lavish house where this reunion party was being hosted, Ellen immediately felt that something was amiss. She couldn't quite place it, but all the guests seemed to be staring aggressively at Ellen and Phoebe. As they mingled, various partygoers bombarded Ellen with invasive personal questions about her whole life story and background. Ellen whispered to Phoebe that people were acting strangely toward her. Phoebe chalked it up to them wondering who this unfamiliar face was. As the night wore on, Ellen observed that many attendees appeared significantly older than Phoebe had claimed her classmates would be. When she asked Phoebe who the host was, her date vaguely said she had yet to actually see him. Ellen wandered around the peculiar party feeling increasingly unsettled. She ducked into the bathroom just to catch her breath and texted friends that this event was bizarre. Suddenly, there was a knock at the bathroom door. A younger-looking man implored Ellen to leave the party immediately and abruptly warned her that Phoebe wasn't who she said she was. Stunned, Ellen hurried out of the house and drove off without saying goodbye, deeply confused by what had just transpired. Phoebe blew up her phone asking where she went, but Ellen did not reply. Shaken, Ellen investigated Phoebe further when she got home. She discovered the phone number Phoebe had given her wasn't actually registered to a Phoebe. The address history tied to that number also didn't line up with the details her date had shared. Ellen realized she had been lied to and was in potential danger at that party. She blocked Phoebe's number and told friends about the intensely alarming experience. Her friends later teased her that the night sounded like something straight out of the horror movie Get Out, full of deception and sinister underlying motives. Sadly, my friends and my disturbing reunions show darkness often hides at supposedly cheerful events. Rather than harmless nostalgia, they can attract dubious people from our past with cruel intentions, concealed behind familiar faces. We let guards down seeking to reconnect, but some have nefarious aims. The sobering truth is past peers may resurface to harm us. High school was simpler. Reunions attempt recapturing that fleeting youth. Nonetheless, rose-colored visions must lift. We cannot blindly trust all blasts from the past, despite the welcoming familiarity. Reunions necessitate vigilance against those who would shatter our peace.